Fun yesterday in Miami, today on the Curvy Couch.
You did your first diner yesterday, and you did a great job. And we've got a packed show today, so we're thrilled that you're with us.
We do.
Can't wait to be here.
And why do we have barbecue on the plaza? Simply because summer is coming. That's it. It's not National Barbecue Day. It's not anything else. It's just we love it, so we bring
Pete,
it.
I think summer's already here. We're like towards the end of June.
Yeah, it's true. The summer solstice isn't here yet, though.
Okay.
I mean, we need a meteorologist to weigh in on that. We'll get Rick Reitke on it soon. But until then, maybe some politics.
Yeah, but some politics. And as you know, we've still been following closely the story that happened midweek, right here on this show when it broke on Wednesday, the shooting that happened with the congressman and two of the aides. But now it has been released, names of targets that this, I don't know what you want to call him, deranged, totally messed up person.
Well, he's a left-wing lunatic.
Yet.
Absolutely. So the Fox News alert this morning is that the names of 6 House GOP members were found on the congressional shooters, effectively a hit list, showing that this was indeed a political assassination attempt. And 6 names are as follows. These were found, again, in his van in a list. Representative Trent Franks, Representative Jeff Duncan, Representative Scott DeCharles, I think I may butcher that, Representative Jim Jordan, Mo Brooks, and Morgan Griffith. What do they have in common? All Republicans, and we believe all members of the Freedom Caucus, so conservative Republicans.
Well, that's what he asked when he was walking on the field. He asked one of the congressmen who was leaving, he said, are they Republican on that field or are they Democrat? And he didn't know who that was. He thought it was just someone that was maybe going to go watch the practice. So, he said, oh, there are Republicans on there. Sure enough, he went and did his thing.
That's right. And it wasn't just any Republican. I mean, really, that list is conservative Republicans who he believes are obstructionist to the things that he believes as a left-wing Democrat who is baptized in those ideas. That doesn't mean the Democrats are to blame for everything. This guy's his own actor.
No,
but it was a political move, unfortunately.
And this really has elevated it from, oh, I don't like X, I don't like Y. When you have a hit list, this is basically a targeted assassination attempt. And if those individuals weren't there, the Capitol Police, who knows what this gentleman might have done on that scene and then potentially on his way to the Capitol. You just don't know.
So one of those people that were on the list, Representative Trent Franks, he was on the story last night, and he said this was a premeditated attack. Here's what he said.
There are certainly many indications now that the shooter was premeditated in his actions. I have been notified that there is an investigation and that, yes, that I might be involved in that investigation, but, I certainly can't go any further than that.
So, this is a guy who was targeted. Again, the FBI saying we shouldn't call it a hit list. Maybe it wasn't a hit list. These are names, but clearly there was a focus on Republicans and these members who were at that baseball park.
Well, and to your point, Todd, you just got to be so thankful because it could have been so much worse when you think about, the people that were on that field, and luckily there was security there to protect them. And you think about everyone is okay except for the shooter.
Well, Steve Scalise is in critical condition right now in a hospital, stabilized. The internal bleeding has stopped. But, listen, this is still a touch-and-go situation for him.
And now this begs the question, what is next? What chilling effect does this incident have and this potential list, we're not calling it a hit list yet, what does this chilling effect mean? And we already have an example. Congressman Scott Perry has postponed town hall for today after this week's shooting. And now some are wondering, do these need to be canceled altogether? And again, I am not in the position of these representatives. It's easy for me to say sitting here on this couch, but I just think they win. The bad people win if you start canceling these things. That said, my life right here on this couch is not in danger. So it's
you can be more prudent about it, right? I mean, these town halls can get really heated. We play a video on this show all the time.
We've seen so many this past year.
People screaming at congressmen and screaming back. But there's ways to secure that through metal detectors. You've got plainclothes security officers. You just have to be prudent about it and don't leave yourself out there.
But you have to ask, what is the balance between making sure people are safe, but also giving people access to the people that represent them? That is going to continue to be a tough balance that we find in this country. Representative Lou Barletta was one of those who floated the idea of canceling these town halls. Here's what he said.
Yeah, I think absolutely. There's no question. I've been at the end of some of those town halls where the police had to carry people out, and you get concerned not only for your own safety but for the safety of the people who are there, who actually come to be heard, and even if you have an opposing opinion, that's great. That's what these events are for. But there's a level, when people cross a line to actually inciting other people, and when individual safety becomes an issue, well, then the purpose of doing it is lost.
Brief correction, I believe he's a Pennsylvania congressman, not an Arizona congressman. But it doesn't matter where you're from. If you're stepping into a town hall, you definitely do have that new concern today that shouldn't exist. But we live in a free society. I mean, in a free society, as you said, Abby, you got to have access to it. Todd, I agree with you. We shouldn't have representative canceling these things. You can take a different approach to it. Ultimately, armed citizens defending themselves is a pretty important thing too. There's a reason we have the Second Amendment, and you know, if you're able to arm and defend yourself, that's also a pretty quick.
But it should be a wake-up call. I mean, our politics has gotten so out of hand. It has become so extreme and so divisive. It's so ugly on both sides now. This should be a wake-up call that, with our discourse, we just need to calm down a bit.
And all of our representatimembers have families. We got to remember that. They're all people.
They're
like every
human
single one of
beings.
us.
You're
Right.
exactly right, Todd. All right, I do want to get to some other headlines.
Have you met some of them though? They're cyborgs too.
Who?
Members of Congress. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
All right, we do have some breaking news I want to get to right now, starting with a Fox News alert. And 7 U.S. sailors are missing after a Navy destroyer collides with a merchant ship off the coast of Japan. The guided missile cruiser USS Fitzgerald just arriving back at its naval base about 50 miles from where the incident happened. The ship was towed after suffering major exterior damage. 4 injured sailors, including the ship's commander. They were flown to a naval hospital. No word yet on their condition. And the cause of that collision, that is still unknown. We'll keep a close eye on that this morning. Also, this hospital officials confirming Republican Steve Scalise remains in critical condition, but his vital signs have stabilized. They say he was shot to his hip, and there major damage to his bones, internal organs, and his blood vessels.
When he arrived, he was in critical condition with an imminent risk of death.
3 people were shot when James Hodgkinson fired nearly 50 rounds at a baseball field in Alexandria early Wednesday morning. And the Trump family enjoying a presidential tradition this weekend. White House officials say the president, along with First Lady Melania Trump and son Barron, are taking their first trip to Camp David for a woodsy weekend getaway. Past presidents have stayed at Camp David for personal retreats, as well as hosting foreign dignitaries. President Trump usually spends weekends at his Florida Mar-a-Lago resort, earning its nickname the Southern White House. That'll be fun to go there for the first time. And Oscar-winning director John Avildsen, best known for the film Rocky, has passed away.
Rocky, you went the distance. You went the 15 rounds. How do you feel? All right, what are you thinking about when that buzzer sounded for that one? What do you think about when the 15th round when you're coming out?
Avildsen's Rocky became a phenomenon that won Oscars for Best Picture as well as Best Director. He would later direct the surprise hit The Karate Kid, one of my all-time favorites. Avildsen's son says his father died Friday in Los Angeles from pancreatic cancer. Sylvester Stallone, who played Rocky, posting this tribute: "Rest in peace. I'm sure you will soon be directing hits in heaven. Thank you." John Avildsen was 81 years old.
Back when good movies actually won awards.
Wow, he made some great ones.
Seriously, right?
Very much so. Yeah. Speaking of art or supposed art, we've covered on this program, in fact, a lot last weekend, kind of broke this story, but late in that Shakespeare in the Park had been airing this rendition of Julius Caesar for weeks that had gone unnoticed until members of some of the media and Fox and Friends, frankly, on the weekend recognized that, hey, this is a depiction, effectively, of the assassination of our president on stage, live in Central Park. Well, a lot of attention has been brought to it. Some corporate sponsors exited, but the play has gone on, as some have remained defiant and saying, no, this is we have a First Amendment in this country.
Especially
and
after the shooting happened on Wednesday.
Then the shooting happens on Wednesday. Well, last night at the performance, it was interrupted by a protester who ran up on stage and effectively said, hey, this is inciting violence. This is something the left has gotten away with, is portraying violence against conservatives. How is that not biased against our president? We should not be doing this.
Right. And then they got kicked off the stage.
They got kicked off the stage.
That protester.
But the point is we're not used to seeing conservatives use the tactics of the left. The left are the ones that protest and intimidate and confront and yell and scream, usually. In this case, it was a conservative that went up there and said, hey, why are we praising a play like this that shows the assassination of our president?
I'm not condoning the play, but do you think this is exactly what the left wants? Is there a concern there? Like there's chaos, if you will?
Well, maybe, but I think the left is always surprised by when conservatives actually fight back, when they actually stand up and say, we're willing to stand up and say this is unacceptable. And I wonder about the people at the play booing it and saying, no, let us see an assassination attempt of our president.
Yeah.
Let us see violence against a depiction of President Trump. It's women and minority actors that are stabbing the president, insinuation that he's racist and sexist.
Right.
What are you booing against?
I was just looking at that audience. It is a packed crowd. I'm thinking, why are you sitting there saying that this is all okay? Because I actually do think a majority of the American people are tired of all this. I think they are tired of the rhetoric and the division on both sides, and they want to, and you think about Kathy Griffin, the whole beheading situation. I mean, it has really gotten out of hand, and you see that play. That should not be going on, especially after the shooting happens. I thought the best moment of this entire week was the baseball game.
It was spectacular.
When you had people come out from all walks of life, from all over the country that wanted to be there. It just shows the resilience of this nation. We are still the most resilient nation in the world, and we've got to remember that. In times like this, let's step away from the rhetoric and the politics.
And now that I'm part of the official diner team here, when you go to these diners and you talk to the regular American, they don't care about all this stuff. They want their pocketbook affected, their health care affected. They care about the issues that matter to them. All right, they don't care about all this stuff.
That's all fine and well. But if you can do unity at second base on a baseball game, give me the sense that you're going to do something other than resist this president. Give me a sense that you're actually going to come to the table and be involved in solutions. Or are you going to just do that for one day, kneeling at second base, because that's all right and fitting. But then the next day, you're resisting, you're impeaching, you're obstructing. It remains to be seen that the left is going to be anything other than what it is.
Well, no better time than now. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
All right, Fox News alert. We could be on the verge of another major bombshell in the Russian collusion investigation. Will Special Counsel Bob Mueller be forced to step down? Greg Jarrett explains why he may no longer have a choice.
And remember these students shocked to find their yearbook picture had been photoshopped? Revoking all references to President Trump? This morning, they're making yearbooks great again. We'll bring it to you.
Really feel, the sorrow together for what happened to Representative Scalise. Our prayers all go out to Scalise and his family. It's policy that divides us, and after we have the, absolute disagreement on policy, we can literally sit down and have dinner together, and so we are friends, and this was one of us. We are all members of Congress who was injured, was shot in a horrific accident, assassination attempt. So what you saw at second base would be expected, friends standing with other friends. It's policy that divides us.
And it's standard protocol that all congressmen really don't have security when they travel anywhere. It was very lucky that you had Scalise with his two men there on the field to protect them. Do you think that we should at least talk about maybe our representatives being able to protect themselves or arm themselves? Should anything change?
Yeah, Abby, none of us have protection other than the leaders, and that would be the Speaker, the Majority Leader, and the Whip, and then the other side, the Leader and the Whip. The rest of us do not have security. We're not asking for it. Myself, as I have stated, I have a carry permit, and, Second Amendment, I can carry and will be carrying when I'm back in my district, but you're right, in D.C. we can't. I can just tell you I am working with the NRA on some legislation that might be able to make common sense and to assist members of Congress and their staff in being able to protect themselves. So I'm going to be, again, working with the NRA on something moving forward.
Let's get to this quote in your op-ed. Whether it is by bomb, vehicle, knife, or gun, America is witnessing unprecedented carnage. That is why I indicated earlier this week I will employ my Second Amendment right and carry a concealed firearm when appropriate as I travel my district. Talk about that. I mean, do you think this is something that every single member, every single one of your colleagues needs to do?
Well, we'll each make our own decisions. Today, when I'm traveling up in one of my counties, I'm going to be in a parade. I'm going to what they call, it's basically a lawn fete, but it's a town called Nun Day, and it's the Nun Day Fun Days. It's a large crowd. I'll be traveling with 1 or 2 sheriff deputies today, something I've not normally done. But, again, we need to keep ourselves and our staff safe, and that's a right guaranteed by the Second Amendment. So, there's a saying, if you're in the midst of carnage like we saw on the baseball field, the safest place to be is with someone, a good guy with a gun.
That was a real wake-up call. Well, our thoughts are with everyone still recovering. Representative Chris Collins, good to have you with us. Really appreciate that.
Yes, Abby, good to be with you.
All right, have you noticed the Democrats' collusion narrative is falling apart at the seams? Is it time they throw in the towel and try to get something done? Novel concept, right? Our political panel, Carl Higbie, Tammy Bruce, and Jimmy Green here to discuss next.
And swimming champ Michael Phelps already beat nearly every human in the world. Well, now he's taking on a new challenger. You're not going to believe this one, a shark. Yes.
Of deliberations. Cosby's lawyers asking a judge for a mistrial. But the judge is refusing, saying there is no precedent to halt the jury's work. And Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, who has been overseeing the FBI's special probe into Russia's alleged election meddling, might recuse himself. Rosenstein now under scrutiny after it was reported that President Trump is allegedly being investigated for obstruction of justice. Rosenstein wrote a memo to the president about James Comey's mishandling of Hillary Clinton's email investigation before he was fired from his post as FBI director. Pete?
Todd, thanks a lot. That news certainly pertinent to this topic, as reports surface that the special counsel named to investigate Russian meddling is looking into possible obstruction of justice. President Trump fires back on Twitter saying, "You are witnessing the single greatest witch hunt in American political history, led by some very bad and conflicted people." Here to react is our panel, Fox News contributor and radio talk show host Tammy Bruce, former Navy SEAL and author of Enemies, Foreign and Domestic, A SEAL's Story, Carl Higbie, and Fox News contributor and 2008 Clinton campaign advisor, Jimmu Green. Thank you all for joining us this morning.
Hey, good morning.
Tammy, I'm going to start with you. Are we witnessing that kind of historic political witch hunt?
Well, technically, you're looking at a witch hunt being the seeking out of someone to punish them for having an opinion or a point of view that is unapproved of or that is threatening to you. So technically, you could argue that indeed. At the same time, you're looking at, after a year of hearings, a year of other investigations, the FBI and Congress, they still haven't found what they were looking for because there's been a hunt for something as opposed to the investigation of something, and yet it continues. So this, I think, it's legitimate. The American people are also seeing this become something new. We saw the argument about collusion go away because they didn't find the evidence for collusion, and now it's changed to something else. This is what we will see for years if, in fact, we don't confront the nature of what is happening, not only when it comes to the intelligence services, which now you could argue are also targeting the president, but Congress, never Trumpers, the system as well.
Of course, yeah, and those leaks, are they even being investigated at all? What is the scope of what Bob Mueller is currently investigating? Carl, I bring that to you. Is Mueller himself conflicted? We're talking about Rosenstein, we're talking about Mueller, who's a personal friend of Comey. Comey leaked the memo to get a special counsel who became his friend Mueller. I mean, where does this go?
Well, I think this can be squashed right now, and I think Trump should. And the way he can do that is, first, he has his tax returns that he can negotiate with. He has a number of things he can say. I will cooperate fully with your investigation right now on three things. One, if there's leaks, my cooperation ends. Two, if you guys want this to absolutely go forward, let's raise the stakes to Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, the like, and say, if you don't find anything in 2 months, you resign. But I will cooperate fully. They're not going to go along with that, which shows the lack of conviction in their own projections here. So I think right off the bat, Trump needs to squash this. Also, he needs to fire anybody from this investigation who has physically donated any type of money to anybody on the left, because I think that's a confliction too, and Mueller's bringing in people like that.
Jimmu, let's put the foot on the other shoe. If this were a new Democratic administration and this type of investigation, which seems to be barreling and growing without compass and without scope, were happening, would you not be saying, hey, they're going after our man? They want him. I mean, effectively, this is an impeachment investigation, not a narrow scope.
No, I disagree with you, because effectively this started because Russia interfered in our democracy.
Wait, hold on. What shred of evidence exists right now about collusion?
And I think that is the biggest tragedy of this all, that the conversation is so focused on Trump that you see even Trump and the other Republican leaders in this administration have not asked any questions, aren't even concerned about what a foreign government did.
So he has said time and time again, we recognize that Russian interference, if anyone did, we'll go after them.
But we all need to be angry about.
Okay, everyone's angry if a foreign government attempts to influence our election.
This investigation
but they
to begin
didn't,
with.
and there's no evidence of collusion, yet Democrats obsess over that word.
Why are you so obsessed on the collusion aspect of it and not the intrusion into our electoral process?
That's what they're investigating.
No, the entire national intelligence community said Russia is trying to come into our democracy and have an influence over it.
Everyone acknowledges
and
that.
we have to figure out how to make sure it never happens.
For the first time,
That's the most important
I agree with Jimmu here that we've gotten this was a dynamic also with the Comey hearing. People noted that no one was asking him about that there was no inquiry about that. And it's important because that implies that the president and other Republicans are Russian spies and are trying to undo this democracy.
It's almost like get your eyes back on your paper and investigate.
But what it highlights is the fact that that was kind of the red herring, that was a non-existent issue, and they saw that there was no evidence, so they wanted to move on.
Yeah.
That's what we should also be angry about, is the manipulation of the system for political means against a man who they simply disagree with and loathe because he's not like them.
Good point.
We also have to create some bounds to this. They can't just hire an endless army and then investigate everything in the world they want.
That's when it starts to stop looking like an investigation and look like an inquisition. Thank you all Tammy, Carl, and Jimmy. Appreciate it. All right, a Fox News alert next. A desperate search underway for 7 missing sailors at sea after their ship was damaged in a brutal collision. We're live with the latest details next. Plus, remember these students shocked to find their yearbook pictures had been photoshopped, removing all references to President Trump? Well, this morning, they're making yearbooks great again. And scandal rocks the quiet Long Island community of Crooked Hill. This is a big scandal. Police on the hunt for the vandals who did that. Is that a Crooked Hillary exit? We'll bring it to you next.
My heart, when you said, well, part ain't that a shame. My tears feel like rain.
And we are back with a Fox News alert. 7 Navy sailors are missing after a U.S. warship crashes into a cargo ship off the coast of Japan.
A badly damaged destroyer towed back to its Japanese base this morning.
Our own Ellison Barber is live in Washington, D.C. with the latest. Good morning, Ellison.
Good morning to you guys. That's right. 7 Navy sailors are missing and at least 5 are injured. The U.S. Navy 7th Fleet says search and rescue efforts are underway involving both U.S. and Japanese aircrafts as well as surface vessels. The commander of the USS Fitzgerald, Bryce Benson, is among the injured here. Officials say he was airlifted to a nearby naval hospital. They airlifted 2 other sailors. As of right now, the Navy says all 3 are awake, but they will remain under observation for the foreseeable future. The ship collided with a merchant vessel about 60 nautical miles off the coast of Japan, suffering damage above and below the waterline and causing flooding in parts of the ship. The Navy says that merchant vessel had Philippine flags. This all happened yesterday around 2:30 a.m. local time. The USS Fitzgerald is a guided missile destroyer and carries Tomahawk cruise missiles. Once it gets to land, the Navy says they'll be able to figure out the extent of the damage here. Of course, the next big question is, how could this happen? The cause of the collision is still unknown. One thing that's pretty interesting here, guys, is the Japanese Coast Guard is now the lead when it comes to searching for these 7 missing sailors. Clayton, Abby, Todd.
All right, Ellison Barber, thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Ellison.
Really
Appreciate
hoping for the best there.
Yeah.
All right, turning on to some other headlines we're following this morning. Protests erupting after a police officer is acquitted in the shooting death of a black man. Police pushing out protesters overnight as they shut down a highway in St. Paul, Minnesota, demanding justice for Philando Castile. Castile was shot and killed during a traffic stop last summer. The aftermath streamed on Facebook Live. Despite being acquitted, Officer Geronimo Yanez has been dismissed from the police force. And a New Jersey high school is making their yearbooks great again. Great Again Wall, apparently. The Township High School reissuing the books to contain original, unedited photos after its initial version photoshopped the president's mottos and logos from students' clothing. Officials say they believe it was an intentional act, but are unable to determine why it happened. The yearbook advisor has been suspended indefinitely.
They reprinted the whole thing.
Wow.
Good for them.
And look at this. A Shark Week is going for the gold. Olympic swimmer Michael Phelps will race again against a great white shark. Phelps, of course, holds 39 world records and has collected 23 Olympic gold medals. But the great white shark calls the ocean its home and can swim upwards of 31 miles per hour. The race will be part of the 29th anniversary of Discovery's 8th day marathon of all things sharks. And it all begins July 23rd. People go nuts over Shark Week. Are you guys into Shark Week?
Especially now, this has elevated it to a whole new level.
I'll be watching
I normally go nuts over it. Maybe like the first year I did, but this I will watch.
Yeah.
I think Phelps might win too.
If anyone can, it's Michael Phelps, right?
All right, well, it's time to welcome the newest member of our Fox and Friends family, Todd Pyro. Todd, how can we learn a little bit more about you?
Well, we're going to actually throw to a package right now where we went to my hometown and went to the place where my parents live and scared the you-know-what out of everybody, but it was fun. We had a good time, and I think this will give a little bit of insight into kind of what makes me tick, which is my family and, most importantly, my wife. Aww. Take a look. We're taking a trip here to the great town of Verona, New Jersey. And this right here is the house where I spent my first 18 years of life. Great house in a great neighborhood with great neighbors and really great friends.
Buddy, how you doing? How are you?
Best friend growing up, Dave Okino, right down the street from where we went to elementary school. How long have you known each other?
Since kindergarten.
Ah, look at that. I really have Anchorman hair in
You
that
seriously
photo.
do.
Look at that.
What are you doing now? Oh, okay. Give it to Uncle Todd. Get that football for Uncle Todd. Do we have one?
Can you get the football?
Can you throw it to him?
Oh! This is the field, quote unquote, where we used to play. It's basically the front lawn of Forest Avenue Elementary School. Oh, we still got it!
Where are you going next?
We're going to VHS, Verona High School. Walking around the halls here. It's just so strange to be back. Hear that? That's the sound of the marching drums. I was a member of the Verona High School Marching Maroon and White.
Oh my God, Todd.
How are you? I can't believe you remembered me.
You're awesome. Of course I remember. You played soccer?
Coach.
How are you, man?
How are you?
Good to see you.
I think you would say, and you would agree, like, I wasn't the most athletic kid out there, by no stretch of the imagination, but I tried.
We held our own. You know, we did the best we can. We had fun too.
Don't forget, I'm 70.
Don't forget, I'm an old man too. Okay, so you saw where I grew up there in Verona, New Jersey. Now we're taking it to Belmar, New Jersey, which is where my parents live now, here at the Jersey Shore. Thank you, Lord, for great family, great food, and for bringing everybody together. All right, can we eat?
Yes. Does anybody remember when Todd was really young, like a baby? And he had such puffy cheeks.
So who thought I would get into this TV game?
You always liked the audience. You did.
I think she's politely saying you like attention.
And I'm very proud of you. Because you're living your dream.
And for me, it's one thing that I do admire is if you're doing what you like and now finally winding up back in New York.
Moving back to the East Coast was important because I miss my family. Hey, family! But, Amelia, but there was one other big thing coming home.
We have a little announcement. Todd and I got engaged over the weekend.
Can you believe it's been 3 years? This very spot. Proposed.
You set it up really well. I mean, it was a really romantic scene. You had a dozen roses, right? You had champagne.
Best day of my life, only to be topped by our wedding. The only thing that would have made that day sweeter, ice cream. Let's go now. How long have we been coming to Collins?
When you were younger, we used to come here like 3 or 4 times a week.
Anybody who knows me knows this is my zen. Little ice cream, family, taking a look at the ocean. There really is nothing better.
You're going to fit right in here then. Ice cream and family. Was that mint ice cream you were eating?
I love the mint. There's no other flavor. It's only mint. Every time I watch that, my wife just gets more and more beautiful. I'm like, what is she doing with me? Like, seriously.
She was my favorite part of that whole
Yeah,
package.
seriously, right? She's amazing. She's not just beautiful outside, but she's beautiful
I
inside.
look for you should bring her on the couch one of these days.
I would
look
love
forward
to.
hear.
She would love
And another thing about you that people don't know or wasn't in the package, you're a lawyer, and that's why you were out west.
I am, yeah. I went to law school at UCLA. Loved UCLA, even though it's a little bit of a liberal place. But it did love it out there and practiced out there for 4.5 years, and then started my TV career. I am a lawyer, yes, but I'm no Greg Jarrett, who's coming up, and I'm no Jeanine Pirro or Judge Napolitano. But hopefully, I can give a little insight to the folks out there.
Good stuff.
we
Well,
don't
we're
need
glad to
I
have
need
you here. We appreciate it.
All right,
Yeah,
coming
great
up.
to have you.
Awesome.
One ESPN host says, don't blame Colin Kaepernick for the national anthem protest. Just blame the NFL.
You do not have to stand for the national anthem, and even if it was a rule that you did, is that Colin Kaepernick injecting politics into the NFL? No. That's the NFL injecting politics.
Oh, Max. Former Green Beret and NFL player Nate Boyer here to respond.
Plus, we could be on the verge of another major bombshell in the so-called Russian collusion investigation. Will Special Counsel Bob Mueller be forced to step down or recuse himself? Our own Greg Jarrett explains why he may no longer have a choice. Anchor and former attorney Greg Jarrett weighs in next. You weren't going to get up there.